I did see a small snake, though.
Snakes don't have feet.
Welcome to Hamburgers and Horror, the home of meat, monsters, and murderous children. I'm Noah Hook, and today we're looking at 2012's Sinister. This supernatural horror follows a true crime writer named Ellison, who is researching the murder of a family for a new book. He takes things a bit too far, moving his family into the home where it happened, and he stumbles upon the recordings of that murder as well as 4 separate but related killings. As Ellison dives into unraveling the bizarre connection between these families, he realizes something sinister may be pulling the strings. Sinister was directed by Scott Derrickson, who has brought us films like Hellraiser Inferno, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Doctor Strange, and the upcoming film The Black Phone. He co-wrote the screenplay with his frequent collaborator Christopher Robert Cargill, who developed the idea after dreaming he found a snuff film in his attic. The two originally imagined the pagan deity as almost a Willy Wonka figure, being more seductive than scary to the kids. They ended up going the scarier route though, basing their character off an image they found on Flickr. I couldn't find the exact photo, but they really liked the idea of Bagul looking similar to the outfits used in black metal bands. The film stars Ethan Hawke from Training Day and Boyhood as Father Ellison Oswalt, Juliette Rylance from A Dog's Purpose and The Artist's Wife as Mother Tracy, Michael Daddario from People Like Us as son Trevor, and Claire Foley from Do No Harm as daughter Ashley. Gotham's Christopher Noor was brought in as cinematographer, and Hellraiser's Christopher Young handled the movie's score, which also incorporated a ton of black metal and really creepy music. Released on a small $3 million budget, Sinister raked in $88 million at the box office, proving to be a huge success. Most people would agree it's on the better half of Blumhouse's films, and it has a pretty consistent 63 and 61 on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics cite the film for its solid acting, cinematography, and atmosphere, but do find it guilty of some horror cliches as well as an overabundance of jump scares. Thank you to my patron Lord Brian for requesting Sinister for me to review. I saw it for the first time about a year after it came out, and at the time I thought it was pretty great. But it has been 5 or so years since I've last seen it, so I'm excited to see how my opinions change today. You should probably turn your lights off for this recap, because we're watching Sinister. The movie lets us know what we're in for right out of the gate with some Super 8 footage wherein 4 people with bags over their heads are hanged to death. The hidden figure who cut the tree limb isn't revealed yet, but don't worry, we'll get there. We jump to the new Oswald house as Ellison and Tracy are bringing in boxes, and y'all could really stand to turn some lights on. The sheriff pulls up outside and scolds one of his deputies who has brought a copy of Ellison's best-selling book for an autograph. Ashley is vocally unhappy about having to move, and we learn that Ellison uprooted the family to be closer to a new story he's working on. He does promise her they can move back to their old home once he's finished, and Ashley promises to give this place a chance. The sheriff has come to see Ellison, and he basically states that he doesn't want this guerrilla crime solver anywhere near his town. His best-selling book, Kentucky Blood, was a riveting story with evidence that helped catch a killer, but his last few books have been notoriously faulty, one even allowing a killer to walk free. The sheriff doesn't want him turning this town into a circus, but Ellison argues that he won't abandon the missing girl from the case he's researching. The sheriff assures him that girl is either dead or far away from here, and that he will waste his time and money trying to find her. He also points to their new house and says this was in very bad taste, and that prompts Tracy to ask if they've once again moved to a few houses away from a murder case. He promises that is not the case, and spoiler alert Trace, you're even closer this time around. It's about time we visit the attic, which has a scorpion, a Super 8 projector, and some fun home movies all boxed up. Trevor wants to know about the murder, adding that the kids at school will tell him either way, and it's clear Tracy isn't very fond of the stories Ellison chooses to cover, hence why she knows nothing about this specific case. That night she asks how long they have to be here, adding that it has been 10 years since Kentucky Blood. Ellison is desperate for the attention and publicity again, and Tracy says if this goes sour like last time she will leave him and take the kids. He promises that won't happen, but she doesn't seem too hopeful. As Ellison sets up shop, we get glimpses of the family that was hanged. The deceased include a mother, father, son, and daughter, with a second daughter being the girl who disappeared after the murder. He wonders where the weird box of films came from and sets up a little theater to watch the movies. The footage shows the Happy Stevenson family of 5 who is seemingly being stalked by the unseen camera operator. And it suddenly jumps to the footage of them being hanged. Yep, I think that calls for a drink. He watches over again, wondering who filmed it and where the missing daughter Stephanie is. He admires the evil tree outside and follows a few suspicious creaks inside, but it's just Ashley who has to take a leak. He compliments her interesting mural and kisses her goodnight and gets back to work on his movie marathon. This one, titled Family Barbecue, starts out familiarly with the viewer stalking a family from a distance. But this one jumps to the family bound and gagged inside their gas-filled car, and the operator lights the family ablaze. Ellison, call the fucking cops. Yes, there you go. No, damn it, Ellison, you prideful little bastard. Ah well, let's watch Pool Party 66. Ellison thinks he hears another child creaking around, but Ashley's sound asleep and the footsteps seem to be circling him. What's this? A creepy-ass box? I wonder what's inside. Apparently, Trevor used to have a horrifying combination of sleepwalking and night terrors, and they suspect the stress of the move has caused a re-emergence of them. Ellison almost cracks and tells Tracy what his past hour has been like, but he ends up keeping it to himself. Tracy takes the kids to their first day at the new school, which means Ellison can get back to his snuff party. What a lovely day at the pool. What could possibly go wrong? Turns out a lot, as the bound family members are individually dragged into the water to be drowned to death. But then the camera pans to a creepy-ass figure beneath the water, and as Ellison is getting a closer look, the projector overheats and burns the film. After some research, he manages to display the remaining film on his laptop, but he only has a glimpse of the figure now. The family arrives home in a big argument, and we learn Trevor defaced a whiteboard by drawing 4 people hanging from a tree. Uh-oh. Neither he nor Tracy knows they are in the house where it happened, but she is still pissed their kids are being exposed to this kind of information. We get more signs of a deteriorating marriage, and Ellison watches another film in which a family, including a very young boy, have their throats slit with a big knife. Upon rewatch, Ellison notices a symbol painted on the wall, which was also painted on the car that was burned in the barbecue video. He also finds some text pointing the murder to St. Louis, and combining that with the year written on the film case, he manages to identify the family in the film. One of the children, Chris Miller, also went missing after his family's murder, and Ellison hears a creak in the attic before the power cuts out. The fam is all still asleep, and he hears a loud bang and footsteps coming from the attic. Ellison grabs a knife and makes his way up into the attic, where he finds a snake hiding beneath a box lid. But drawn on the box lid are all of the families from the films, and amongst all of them is somebody named Mr. Boogie. Then on his way back down, Ellison falls through the ceiling, I guess. After getting stitched up, that deputy from earlier asks him about the footsteps he says he heard, but also suggests that squirrels were responsible. He also asks for an autograph and gets super excited about Ellison's evidence board, revealing that he would like to assist him in his investigation, as long as he is mentioned in the next book. Ellison is happy to take the free, although dim-witted help, and he requests the deputy learn the addresses of the 1998 St. Louis throat slashing and the 1979 car burning. Later he watches an interview from when Kentucky Blood hit the best-selling list, and we see how invested he was in truth and justice, as opposed to the fame and fortune that drives him today. He starts looking over the drawings of Mr. Boogie and eventually spots him hiding within the background of the hanging and burning films. He hears from Deputy So-and-so, who has identified the car fire victims as the Martinez family from Sacramento. One of the children from that case also went missing. He tells Ellison the street addresses where the murders took place, and he realizes the Stevenson family, the ones who were hanged, used to live where the Miller family was killed. Mr. Boogie is impressed with Ellison's detective work and presents him with some new footage, which shows that as Ellison fell through the ceiling, a bunch of little hands were helping drag him down. That night, he wakes to the sound of the projector, which has begun playing the Stevenson murder on its own. Ah shit, Mr. Boogie's in the bushes. Ellison heads outside with a baseball bat, but all he finds in the bushes is trembling Trevor. After putting him back in bed, he goes to grab his flashlight and bat, only to find a pissed off doggo. Oh shit, and there's some ghost kids behind you too, buddy. Tracy has had enough and demands to know what he is keeping from her and why he's acting so strange, but he simply claims he is onto something way bigger than Kentucky Blood. He starts rambling about all the fame and fortune they'll have when he's finished, and he eventually manages to calm her nerves with the promise of their happily ever after. Deputy so-and-so shows up with some unrequested files on the case, and he presses Ellison to be more informed on their obviously connected cases. He agrees and gives the deputy the rundown on the connections, including that all of the victims in each case were drugged, reducing the need for brute strength, and that one child was taken from every murdered family. The timeline would indicate that the killer is at least in his 60s, and the painted symbol possibly indicates that these were ritualistic killings. So-and-so recommends he contact Professor Jonas from a nearby university, who is well known for his knowledge on the occult, and Ellison assigns the deputy with identifying the drowning family. Probably about time you watch the final film, Ellison. Oh yay, another happy family. Oh no, is that a lawnmower? Yeah, I see why you saved that one for last. Ellison reaches out to Professor Jonas, who immediately recognizes the symbol found at the crime scenes. He explains that the symbol is used to worship a pagan deity named Bagul, the Eater of Children. All of the tales around this spirit recount that it feeds off the souls of kids by luring them away from the physical world into its own. Those who used to worship Bagul would practice many rituals ranging from blood sacrifices to eating kids. Jonas believes these murders were some sort of cult initiation, and he asks Ellison to share any and all information he has. Ah shit, that damn projector is at it again, and as Ellison prowls through the house, he is visited by Stephanie Stevenson, Barbecue Boy, Lawnmower Girl, and Chris Miller. Not sure where Pool Boy is, but poor Ashley is also having sweet nothings whispered to her by Stephanie. Ellison passes out on the couch until morning and has the deputy come over to ask about the Stevenson family. But he has no recollection of the Stevensons ever filing a complaint or anything strange being found at the crime scene. And the deputy is shook when he realizes Tracy doesn't know where she's been living. Ellison says he's been having spooky encounters, but the deputy reassures him he is spooking himself by living in a murder house. And he advises that he and his family should stay somewhere else for the time being. Oh yikes, now Ashley has painted a picture of Stephanie in the hallway and she spills the tea about this being the murder house. Tracy is obviously pissed and refuses to let Ellison weasel his way out of taking the blame, but Ellison argues that it really isn't a big deal. Tracy is tired of her kids learning about murders and being hated by their neighbors, but he argues that he can't support the family and be happy by doing anything else, as true crime is his passion. Tracy disagrees, saying that his family is his meaning in life and their children are his legacy. But I guess she isn't mad enough to leave though, as she knows somewhere deep down Ellison is a loving husband and father. Oh, nope. Ellison wakes up to find the attic ladder is down and he finds the ghost kids watching their favorite movies. Oh shit, hi Mr. Boogie. The projector and films come hurtling down and Ellison finally snaps and lights it all on fire. Tracy comes outside and Ellison says they are leaving and he apologizes for what he has done. They wake the kids, pack some bags, and start driving out of town, but Ellison's speeding attracts the good old sheriff. But once he hears they are leaving town and there won't be a book, he is happy to let the Oswalds leave without a ticket. They begin moving back into their old home, and Ellison ignores a call from Deputy so-and-so, but that night he receives some Baguli images from Jonas. He explains that there are very few images of the deity remaining, as superstition led early Christians to believe that Bagul lived inside the images and used them as portals to our world. Children exposed to these images were especially vulnerable to possession and abduction, and he has no answer when Ellison asks if burning the images will close the portal. He trashes all the images and declines another call from the deputy, but then he finds that damn projector waiting in the attic. And this time there are extended endings to the movies, which Ellison can't help but watch. He finally answers the deputy, who is very concerned that the family has moved. He explains that each family that was killed lived in the home of a previously murdered family. The Stevensons used to live at the Miller throat slicing house, the Millers used to live at the Deluzio lawnmower house, the Deluzios used to live at the Martinez car fire house, and the Martinezes used to live in the 1966 pool drowning house, which is the first murder to be filmed on Super 8. Ellison moving the family out of that house has now replicated exactly what caused these families to be butchered, and the deputy fears someone will be coming for them now. He turns on the Stevenson film and we finally get to see who was cutting the branch that hanged them. By golly, it was little Stephanie Stevenson. One by one, the children who went missing are revealed to be the killers and they suddenly vanish from their frames. Ellison starts feeling lightheaded and he finds some glowy stuff in his cup as well as a note that says "Good night, Daddy." He passes out as Ashley approaches and he awakens to find himself, Tracy, and Trevor bound with duct tape. Oh, and Ashley has a fucking axe.
Don't worry, Daddy. I'll make you famous again.
She turns on the camera and points it at Ellison, but luckily we don't have to watch the family getting chopped up. We do see the end of this movie though, as Ashley paints the walls red with her family's blood, including Bagul's trademark symbol. The 5 children approach as we zoom out to see this is a projection, and we watch Ashley add her murders to the box lid drawings. She and her new peers stare each other down until Bagul appears and he carries her away into Super 8 world. The movie ends with the home movies waiting for some new family to stumble upon them, and Mr. Boogie gives us one more jump scare. And that's Sinister. It's about as strong as I remember it. Bagul's looks and powers are super creepy, and I think he's one of the more unique horror villains we've gotten in a while. I also appreciate that he was mostly unseen for most of the film. They didn't overuse him or waste him on a bunch of jump scares. Speaking of, there really aren't that many jump scares. Most of the movie's tension comes from the audio and visuals in long, drawn-out sequences. It really utilizes the darkness well, and it has some of the best use of music out of all the horror movies I can think of. The songs that play during the films are just so fucking creepy. They were great choices. The few jump scares that are in the movie really don't work for me though, and I wish they just stuck with the creepy slow burn. I also wish the general unveiling of the ghost kids was a bit scarier, like why are they in slow motion? And do Bagul's hands just emit glowing green drugs? Ethan Hawke does a great job as Ellison. His character is a good mix of relatable but irritating as he makes some awful decisions in this movie. He really does every stupid thing possible to make Bagul's plan fall into place, so it does make it harder to root for him. I also wish there were just a couple more nice scenes with the kids to make it just a little more tragic when that dark ending does roll around. The Dr. Jonas character was hella cliche, but I do kind of like the addition of Deputy So-and-so. They're both clearly just here to do exposition dumps though. Like when Jonas explains that Bagul has been depicted as a scorpion, snake, and dog before, little things like that were explained when I didn't think they needed to be. All in all, I think the story had a ton of potential and it didn't quite live up to it, but I do think it has really strong acting, cinematography, and sound design, and the wicked, dreadful atmosphere makes it a great movie to turn all the lights off for and get really spooked by. It does have a similar feeling to other ghosty movies from around this time like Insidious or The Conjuring, so if you're a fan of those, you'll probably like Sinister. Thank you again to my patron Lord Brian for requesting Sinister for me to review. And remember, you too can request movies for me to review by becoming a patron. It's the most immediate way to support the channel, and you get some fun benefits with it. Sinister was successful enough to get a sequel in 2015, but I don't remember it being very good. I might cover it one day, but for right now we've got bigger fish to fry. In 2 weeks we'll be returning to the Re-Animator trilogy with Bride of Re-Animator. Thank you all for joining me, and an extra thank you to my patrons. As always, I'm Noah Hook, and this has been Hamburgers and Horror. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching my review of Sinister. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all my horror reviews. And if you want to help support the channel, you should check out my Patreon. You'll be able to vote for future movies and franchises I cover on the channel. Thanks y'all.